Hi, everybody. It's Mimi from Be Heard, Empower Yourself. And again, I have an exciting episode. Of course, I'm prejudiced. I think all my episodes are exciting. They're exciting to me. And today I have Jeanne Comeau, who is a transformative metaphysical teacher and an evolutionary astrologer. I like that title who helps individuals understand their soul's purpose. That's important to me, karmic patterns, and personal growth cycles. And she's got more than 2 decades of experience. So, hi, Jeannie.
Hi, Mimi. Hi, everyone.
Yes,
Great
welcome.
to be here.
Oh, we have a fun show. You'll enjoy yourself, I promise.
Cool. I like that.
I never had anybody stomp off the set. So, anyway, I'm very interested because I didn't really um, find my purpose or realize I had one till later in life.
Yeah.
And karmic patterns I hadn't really got into. And I'm sober 35 years in May. And
Congratulations.
thank you. I only bring that up because the years I drank, I was self-medicating
Mhm.
and I did not know it. And when I got sober, they said, you're cross addicted and dual diagnosed. And I said, what does that mean?
Wow. Right. What does that mean?
Yeah, exactly. They said, well, dual diagnosed means that you are addicted personality, but you also have a mental illness. Okay.
Hmm.
So I can be cross addicted. I could be addicted to anything I choose if I want to medicate. It could be food. And
Mhm.
it was first year I got sober, it was food. It was.
Hmm.
I went
Hmm.
away again on a little trip. And mental illness runs in my family.
Oh,
And my father tried to kill himself twice.
oh,
And
wow.
yeah, there was a lot of mental illness. And um, 5 years sober, I went to a place for depression that dealt with family of origin. And
Mm.
it's wonderful for me. Wonderful. They only took 5 people for a
That's
week.
wonderful.
For a
That's really
week.
good.
Yeah,
Really nice directed attention.
we did the role playing the whole thing. Somebody was me,
Yeah.
somebody was my five. It was wonderful. And when I came home, my husband said, like every couple of years, are you going to go away?
Yes.
And I went, if I have to.
Sure.
Exactly what I said, if I have to. So that's my little intro. And I just recently found out about the Akashic Records, and I
Hmm.
knew
Hmm.
nothing about that. And for people that don't, basically everything that's ever happened to you or anybody is out there, just like the
Yes.
internet when they
It's in the field. That's
the
right.
field. So, maybe they can understand that now that we have the internet and they say, hey, if it goes out on the internet, it's there forever. Well, guess what? It always was. Information was there forever. We just
And what's in that Akashic record is everything, every
great thing.
thought,
Yes.
every decision, every action,
It's
every
amazing.
person you influence, good or bad, everything
Yes.
is in the Akashic record. You can think of it like a big library in the sky. It's the field. It's the
It's
universal
the
field of
field.
energy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I had a spiritual guide on a show, and I said, I want you to go into my Akashic records and
Mhm.
see if you can see anything or hear anything. And she said, and you want me to do it on the show? I like tell everybody. I said, yeah, I wrote a book that tells everything that pissed some people off. I don't care. I'm
Yeah.
Miss Honesty. I'm just
Mhm.
telling the truth. So, real short, I'll tell you when we did the follow up, she said, you're on your seventh life. And this is how I know. Now I believe in it. And I'll tell you why. She said, your first life was 200 AD, and you were a
Wow.
female gladiator. That was it. Female gladiator fits me perfect.
So the soul memory is alive and well.
Yeah, but my personality, female gladiator, now I believe anything she tells me. So, what first awakened you to like metaphysics and the deeper layers of our consciousness.
Oh, wow. That is it's a wonderful question, and it could be a very long story, which we don't have time
Another
for.
episode.
But I'm going to really I'm going to talk about metaphysics and evolutionary astrology, and I'm going to talk about the soul.
Do it that way.
And ever since I was a teen, I was into astrology. I got my first book, Linda Goodman's Sun Signs. I'll never forget it. And I read about how I was a Leo, sun sign, and I felt as if I knew myself better. It resonated. It helped me understand who I was. It helped me understand my insecurities.
Mhm.
The Leo, I can speak to that. Well, I can speak to all of them, but, very vulnerable and, protects her heart because it's been hurt. And I felt empowered.
Yeah.
That was the key for me, empowered. And I was so, so young. And so I always wanted to know more. And I would go from astrologer to astrologer over the decades, over the years. And I learned more and more. And it added to the layers and it kept me going. It was enough. Life happened, right? The job, the family, the whole thing, life happened. So I dabble in, I dabble out. And then my energy shifted just before COVID. And I think everybody's got a COVID story. And I love my COVID story. And I think it's wonderful for all of us that can share these stories and survived it that way, right? It's when I really started to study my birth chart. And this was before, it was in January. So I didn't even know about COVID. And we certainly wasn't in lockdown. Um, but it was because, I was still looking what I had been doing with my life and in my life while I was, if anyone would look at me, they'd think I had it all, right? It just didn't bring me joy. It wasn't enough. I needed more. And so I wanted answers as to what made me tick. I
Yeah.
wanted to know what made me me. What was my uniqueness all about? And you spoke about soul purpose, right? So let's tap straight back to that. It was leading, probably about 8 years before COVID, I had been gifted a book. It was a Christian-based book, and I forget the name right now. It'll come back to me. But it talked about having a soul purpose
Mm.
and knowing what your soul purpose was and living that soul purpose. And I thought to myself, a soul purpose? At that point, like many people, would have looked at the greats, I'll say, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, some of these well-known, influencers for the good of humanity, and thought that my mission or my soul purpose had to be something as grand as that. And so that's frightening in and of itself. However, I started to think about soul purpose, and that was really what got me into wanting to know who I was and, well, what is my soul purpose? What is that uniqueness that I have? And so what I discovered was a language, astrology, right? Evolutionary astrology, which I'll talk about, that revealed the energies of the seasons of my life because life is like this. Life is very much like that. And I could see how these energies presented to me as life choices, forks in the road. Astrology is not predictive. It cannot tell you how it's going to work out because we have free will. Astrology, as an evolutionary astrology, I can show my clients, and I do, what energetic weather they're going to be influenced by.
Mhm.
What's coming? Is it a storm? Is it a sunny period? What are the energies coming? And
Yeah.
ultimately, the client gets to choose how to dress for the weather and what decisions to make. So I was curious as to what my karma was and how it was expressing. I started to learn that. I began to see how particular soul lessons that I could see in my birth chart led me to some choices, Mimi, that either kept me in the story,
Mm.
right? The victimhood, the story,
Yes.
why me? Even though it all looked great, or progressed me through the evolution of my soul.
Mhm.
So that's a lot there. I moved beyond at that time. It was uncanny. I charted my whole life through these major um, astrological transits and progressions, we call them, that show us that changing weather. And I was blown away by the changes in life, like an abrupt change, move from one state to another. But I could see what the planetary influences were that came in that set things up for me. And it turned out to be a good move. So, anyways, I moved beyond the character-based astrology into spiritual astrology, soul-centered, choice-driven, honors free will, evolutionary astrology.
Okay.
But in the midst of that, to give you a little bit more, I'd always been interested in hidden philosophies, what we would hear as the occult, the occult. Black magic is what people traditionally think of, right? Well, occult simply means that which is hidden. So we can think of ancient scriptures. They're hidden from us until we go find them, right? This is the occult. I was always drawn to that. And another thing I was always drawn to, Mimi, was energy, vibration. We are energy beings.
Yes.
And so it's just like a pebble drops in a pond and you see the rings vibrating out.
Mhm.
Every choice we make,
Yeah.
every smile we share,
Yeah.
everything ripples out. We are energy beings.
Yeah.
And I knew that. And I wanted to know more.
Mhm.
Again, COVID, lots of time on my hand. The time that would be needed to start the right journey, because we were shut out from the world. I had plenty of time. I enrolled in the University of Metaphysics. And through that, I enrolled Mimi because I wanted to understand energy at a level that I could live from it,
Yeah.
that I could just exude it and bring it to other people. I didn't know how I was going to bring it to other people.
Right.
Ultimately we all serve. I went through a couple of doctorates and, I now specialize in holistic life counseling, but it's
Yeah.
it's metaphysically based. So people hear the term metaphysics and they say, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Meta means beyond.
Yes.
Physics, the physical world or nature. So it's the study of what lies beyond the physical world. I'd always been drawn to it.
Well,
And I wanted to know lots and lots and lots about it. And I love the journey I've been on with that for 6 years now. I
great.
just got my second doctorate, but it's not about that. It's more about who I became on that journey.
Yeah.
Metaphysics is the exploration of the deeper patterns and principles behind life, the meaning of life, life purpose, and the forces that shape the world beyond what we see or can measure. And so it's the pattern that shapes our life. Now, so your question was about evolutionary astrology, and as I said, it's soul-centered astrology. If evolutionary, it's the evolution of the soul.
Mm.
And so, with the language of astrology and its focus on astrology as spiritual and soul centered,
Mhm.
yes, the birth chart, which I'm going to share for the audience what the birth chart is in a moment, but the birth chart does show the energies that we come into in this lifetime and the energies that the soul is seeking to express in this lifetime
Yeah.
for its evolution through all of the lives that it's going to live.
Let
And
me,
and
I got to
yeah,
ask, just a
yes.
minute. So, the first half of my life was horrendous,
Mhm.
which my book, Raised by Wolves, Trapped by Demons, the wolves were my parents. They were not good parents. My father's an
Mm,
alcoholic. My mother was a narcissist. And
mm,
the only way I could get out of there was marriage because it was the 60s. And the first two husbands, yes, I said two, uh, were abusive. The
mhm.
one was a sex addict, which I did not know was a thing back then. I
Right.
just thought he was a cheater. Now they call it sex
Yeah.
addict. And I went through a lot of abuse, a lot, emotionally,
Yeah.
sexually, blah, 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 physical. So I said earlier, pre-show, I self-medicated with alcohol.
Mhm.
And I had no idea that I had a purpose. And I had no idea, and you mentioned this at one point, why me, why me?
Mhm.
So, because I wanted to just go to college and be an English teacher. That's all I
Oh,
wanted. And I couldn't get there. So, when I got sober and my mind got cleared, then I could find the spiritual path.
yeah.
I think that this
Mhm.
is my theory. And I could finally understand that all those horrible things that happened to me were multi-purpose. But
Mhm.
one of the main purposes was so I could take those experiences and the knowledge and help other people,
Yes.
especially women. And I did that. First, I did it by sponsoring women in AA. And then as I went on this spiritual, and like you're saying, in the beginning, you don't even know what you're doing and you're trying to learn about it and everything
Mhm.
else. And I start realizing that I always got a vibe from people immediately, good or bad. I'd always get a vibe.
You could feel it.
Yeah, I was like, well, the word empath is used a lot, but
Mhm.
yes, I knew right away who I would want to talk to and not talk to. And so in my church, we don't call it church, we call it a spiritual community because
Mhm.
we are into a lot of the new age metaphysical
Uh-huh.
ideas,
New thought.
new
Mhm.
thought. And one of the parishioners said to me one day, "You are a star seed." I had no clue what a star seed was,
Mhm.
and we won't go into that right now. But that, like with you, you want to know more, right?
Right. You
So
want to know
I
more.
studied it, and my last book was just published, and it's called Anatomy of an Alien. And it's
Cool title.
here, it's a metaphysical, no, line that out, paranormal medical mystery. The paranormal, of course, is the starseed. The medical is like the 22 operations and diseases I've had in the last 20 years.
Oh my God,
And
22?
oh yeah, with pictures and everything. And the mystery is she a starseed?
That sounds cool.
It's got to go up.
That sounds
Now,
really cool.
I have given that book to every one of my doctors, and they've all read it. And yeah, and they read my first book too, but they were like, I'll go. Am I a starseed? And they go, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
But my cardiologist, I said, did you like the book? He said, yeah, I even learned something from it. You know,
That is so cool.
and
It makes me, if for everyone in the audience that
yeah,
is struggling very, we all struggle, right? But who's,
yeah.
having a
Um,
real struggle and is, coming to a point where they're going to stop the self-medicating or whatever it is. In other words, you were there once. I was there once. We've all been there, is the message I want to bring out to the audience. And to hear Mimi talk about where she's at now, that's empowering.
it,
And it's available to everyone.
yes,
It's
yeah,
available to everyone is the key message here. So thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
yeah.
Um, One of my favorite sayings is, I look with wonder at that which is before me. This came down from the metaphysician Catherine Ponder from the 50s, but I look with wonder at that which is before me. We so we're born with a yeah, I'm going to talk about the birth chart a little bit, and then I want to come back to what you were just saying again for the audience, right? You had, you know, evolutionary astrology, but one of your questions you wanted me to speak about is, how do I describe the idea of the soul blueprint?
Mm,
And so I love that question too. First, let's talk about what is the soul. Uh, it's the deeper part of us that knows who
yeah,
we truly are
yeah.
and what our life is trying to become. In
Mhm.
other words, everyone, there is a knower. There is a knower. And when we're not self-medicating and when we're at those moments of light, We touch the knower. We heal the knower. We are the knower, you
Mm,
see? And so the knower, and we can call it God, we can call it higher consciousness, source, spirit, all of that. The knower is always calling. And so in all those years, that knower was calling you, Marie.
yeah.
Mimi, and here you are. So it's the deeper intelligence within us. This is the soul blueprint. That's the soul that carries the blueprint. See, it carries the blueprint of who we are meant to become, and it quietly guides our life in that direction, which leads me to answer the question, well, what is the blueprint? This is where I love because I get to tap what I was always drawn to, which was the occult and metaphysics and energy, because everything is energy. We're an energy field, and we are all individual pixels, if you will, in the larger energy field. At the moment of birth, folks, think back to your moment of birth. The sky was vibrating at a certain frequency.
Hmm.
You were born at a spot, at a time, which
Hmm.
is unique to you. It will never be repeated again. That energy became imprinted in your soul for the full soul's evolution and imprinted in the human psyche. The soul then endeavors to express its fullness throughout the lifetime as it seeks to evolve the soul, and always the knower is trying to talk to you because we're ultimately here for the evolution of the soul.
Yeah.
For ultimate transcendence, it's going to take a long time, but
Yeah.
take a long time for the great masters to transcend. And so the birth chart is a map. It's the language, Mimi, that I use in evolutionary astrology. I can read it. The soul's purpose can be seen.
Hmm.
The karma can be seen. The emotional pain can be seen. The tension that we chose to seek to evolve through in this lifetime, because we do choose our time and place of birth. And so
Yeah.
we choose our sacred geometry. It's the aspects within our birth chart. We chose that tension. We chose the conditions that the emotional evolution would have to take place through.
Hmm.
And I don't mean conditions like, well, it happened on a Tuesday condition.
No.
I mean conditions such as parents that would be struggling on their own. Parents that we set a contract with to become part of our journey and we part of theirs. You see, there's that soul level contract.
Right.
No matter how difficult or undifficult our parents are, or husbands, or all these people that we come into contact with in our lifetime. And so we can see the energy footprint in the birth chart. And that's what I focus on. Well, we all do with astrology at any rate, but with evolutionary astrology, we work with the nodes of the moon, it's called. And the nodes of the moon show us the emotional DNA that the soul came in with.
Yeah. And very interesting and very deep. And just to tie a little bit more into what you're saying, my mother tried to abort me. And I know that because I had given her a journal when she was in the nursing home. She hated me. My mother did not like me. And I think it's because my father did.
Mm.
I don't know.
Wow.
But I was the oldest of four children and pretty much raised my siblings. And I gave her this journal. I said, Mom, write some thoughts in here so when you pass, I will have something of you to look at and read what your childhood was like, things like this.
Yeah.
So I would come to visit and she would have written nothing. So I'd sit with her and do it with her, say, who was your friend when you were young, etc. So when she passed, of course, I am the one that's going to take that journal home. I gave it to her, so I'm taking it. And
Mhm.
I'm reading it, and it says, how did you feel when you found out you were pregnant with me? And my mother wrote in the journal that she knew I would read. Well, we were poor. We didn't have money. So I jumped up and down the steps and I took mustard baths.
Mm.
That
Yeah.
was the way they tried to get rid of a child back in
Right.
1948.
Yeah.
So thank God I was in counseling and sober when I read that.
In 1948, you said 1848, but I
Did I
know you
say
meant,
18? Well, I did have a life in 1848. That's probably
well,
why I came out.
she could have been part of that, right?
So now here's where I want to make my connection in my mind and my heart, which I really feel is true. When I get into talking about star seeds, which anybody that wants to, I have episodes on star seeds. I have the book that I just wrote. You can read about
Hmm.
star seeds. I think a star seed implanted in my embryo at that moment and saved my life.
Hmm.
Leave that
Hmm.
to give away the ending, but I am a star seed.
Hmm. Hmm.
Do you know much about them?
I do, but not enough to speak about.
That's
I
okay.
wouldn't want to.
It's
Yes.
a very believable theory.
Yes, 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 it is.
Yes,
Um,
very believable.
yeah.
1976, the man that wrote, I think, Age of Aquarius, I think the name.
Hmm. Hmm.
And he said, listen, you have to be very egotistical to think that you are the only living things in the whole universe.
Right,
I would say that. Are
right.
there aliens? Yes, of course there are. Look how big the universe is.
They're
And
massive.
yes, and he believes that a planet that was way ahead of ours, way ahead in every way,
Hmm.
took pity on us because we were killing ourselves and our planet
Hmm.
and sent down seeds. And the seeds were of goodness and knowledge and virtue and moral.
Hmm.
When they planted into people, they grew with that person, and that person's morals and thoughts and goodwill grew too. Now that's what I believe.
Hmm.
I believe that. Now they had a period of hiatus. They couldn't grow because I was drinking too much vodka.
Hmm.
But there's all different types of I'll call it otherworldly beliefs and things that are,
Sure.
a lot of them are absolutely true and can be proven, you
Hmm.
know? And you're going down a path of, the what did you call it? Evolutionary
Evolutionary astrology.
astrology. Yeah.
Well,
There you
my path, I don't know that I'm a star seed or, actually it makes me think of, and I do remember the gentleman who wrote the book. Um, I wonder about the people who don't think they're a star seed, but aren't they star seeds too?
If they're good people,
Um,
yeah. I
yeah.
think if they're I when you look out at the news or whatever, and you see the people that are fighting for good and change, and yeah, they probably are
Mhm.
star seeds. Yeah.
Mm.
I believe there's evil in the world too.
Well, there's very definitely evil. There always has been. These are larger forces.
Yeah.
The evil is there. But if we think about, it's interesting. We look out at the news. I've been having podcasts and conversations with people, and it's a crazy time. It's been a crazy time for a long time.
Yeah.
Um, but let's step away from the news for a moment, right?
Please.
Let's talk about how we can make it better, each one of us individually, right, Mimi? So
Yeah.
everything is energy. We are all consciousness. We're conscious beings, and we're all part of one big energy field, one field of consciousness, universal consciousness.
Yep.
We talked about the knower. We talked about Akashic records, right?
Yep.
Every thought we have goes into our field. Well, our field is the same field as everybody else's. So it goes into the field. What creates the war? What creates the aggression? What creates the hate? Our
Exactly.
thoughts that create hate and aggression. So, how do we change it individually? We move away from those thoughts.
Right.
It's as simple as, not as simple as, but think of it simply. We go away from the dark and we turn the light switch on. We
Right.
focus on staying positive. We focus on love. We focus on sharing and giving. We focus on the star seed within,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
we focus on giving back to humanity because ultimately we're all here to serve. And that is the reason why we're here. We're here to love and to serve. And with evolutionary astrology, we look at soul purpose. Ultimately, the client sees
Mm.
that they're spiritual beings. I receive clients that aren't tapped into this. They're
Right.
spiritual beings. Their
Mm.
soul purpose is a spiritual soul purpose. And
Mhm.
it speaks to, how do I serve for the betterment of humanity? Yes,
Exactly.
it can talk about, well, I do that through writing, Mimi. I do that through hosting a podcast show where I can bring out these thoughts and ideas to individuals and open their awareness.
Right.
You're serving and you're giving and you're loving. So
And,
so this is your sole purpose. Yeah, so it
and
just makes
many,
me think of that with the star
yeah,
seed, and
yeah.
we've got to turn away from the darkness.
And the many people that have come to me after they read my first book. Now, my husband today, I'm with almost 40 years.
Oh,
So
how's he
that's
doing? How's he doing? Better?
well,
Yeah.
he's stage 4 Parkinson's, so he's
Okay.
stable right now.
Good.
But it is going to progress, and I'm not going to think about that. But when they come to me and they have read my book, and I'll go into the doctor's office and one of the staff's like, I read your book. And I go, what you think? And they go, who are you? How could you be this person after you went through all you went through?
Mm.
I said, because there's only two choices. There's fear and
Right.
there's love.
That's right.
And
That's
I
right.
choose love,
That's right.
you know. But
Mhm.
yeah,
And
because
you went, it's interesting. Look at what you went through to finally surrender to love.
oh yes. And
Because it is a surrender.
oh, it is. And my husband, with the Parkinson's, he gets Parkinson's and I get breast cancer the same year. It was like,
Oh,
really?
good. Oh, good.
Tested much. But he at first it was very difficult. And it's always going to be difficult because he was a jock. And
Yeah.
with Parkinson's, you lose your body, and then your mind. And it's tough. But I'm a cheerleader and I'm, always there for
Well,
him.
you're a bright light for him. There's no doubt about
Oh
that.
God. And I'm always telling jokes. And I made a new friend, and this new friend tells another new friend, the only thing I don't like about Mimi is she makes a joke about everything. And I said, that's the only thing she doesn't like about me. She better get used to it
Yeah,
because
I know.
that's how I survived was humor.
Right,
That's what it
right,
was. But
right.
Jerry, finally, he was falling all the time. And a stubborn man would not use his walker. It could be right
Hmm.
next to him, would rather
Hmm.
fall.
Hmm.
And it got to a point where I said, I'm going to have you in this program and you're going to get lots of benefits and you need it. And
Hmm.
2 days a week, you're going to go for the day. So he likes to be glued to my side. And so he started and he said, I'm going for you. And I said, I know you're going for me. So yeah, I know. And now he goes 5 days a week and he loves it.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, they have all kinds of
Yeah,
stuff going on there.
right. And he's making friends.
And he's out of his depression. He's meeting
Right, of course.
people.
We have to do that.
And we get an aid for a couple hours. So it really is a blessing that I got this. So I'm not gonna cry about it. Do you know what? I'm gonna tell you one thing, Jeannie.
Yes.
It's very interesting. And it does kind of go with our theme. We really don't even know what our path is about.
No.
Before I retired, I was an independent living counselor. I counseled
Really?
I counseled people that were in nursing homes how to
Uh-huh.
live on their own. And I'm
Wow.
talking about cerebral palsy, paraplegics, people that the families hated me because they feared them living alone. And I would teach them. I taught a woman who could not use any part of her body except her mouth, and she couldn't speak.
Mm.
And at that time, that was back in the 90s, and computers were getting more and more uh, better and better. And I got her a computer from the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, and she had the stick attached to her head, and she would peck with the stick.
Wow.
And the first words she ever pecked out was, "People think I'm stupid, but I'm not."
Wow.
She never was able to. And her family was like, "What if there's a fire?" And I'd say, "Susie, show them what you'll do if there's a fire."
Huh.
And I had it all set up for her. The door
Wow.
would open if she pushed a certain button. But why I say that is, at the time, did I know my husband was going to get Parkinson's?
No.
Look at the blessing in that.
Right.
Look at,
It's the breadcrumbs in life are always visible. We
yeah,
can think of it as synchronicity, but
synchronicity is the word I was thinking of. Absolutely.
and that's what makes the third part of life so powerful
Oh, yeah.
because we've got the wisdom to recognize the breadcrumbs, to appreciate them.
Yep.
Hopefully we've got the ability to love ourselves through the stale crumbs, if you will.
Yeah.
And we get to witness through our own experiences how magical it really is.
Yeah. Because you
You,
look back,
you know, you just can't make it up.
no, and I was having trouble moving in bed. And I asked the facility that I'm working with to get him a trapeze, they call it.
Yeah,
It's like from the
right.
ceiling.
Sure.
And they said, only if he has a hospital bed. I said, no, I'm not putting a hospital bed in my home. I have grab bars all over and I have cameras in every room. I
Mhm.
mean, I do my job, you know,
Yeah.
but I'm not having it look like a hospital. I found a person to put one in attached to the floor, not to the bed at all. And at first he said, "Oh, this isn't going to work." And the next morning he got up, gave me a kiss, and he said, "Thank you. I was able to turn around in bed last night."
Isn't that something? Yeah.
Now I could have listened to the, specialist and say, "Oh, you can't have one."
No.
Not from my prior job. I knew better.
No, 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 no. Well, not from that life how many years ago, right? I mean, I don't think the
True.
gladiator would have
Oh, the
accepted that.
gladiator did not throw down her sword.
No, of course not.
But yeah, so I just, deal with it day by day. I don't know what's going to happen. We're both in our 70s and we just
And
keep going.
but that is the absolute right way to do it. I mean,
Absolutely.
we must be present in the here and now and deal with it. And as
Yeah.
difficult as it is, and certainly you know this, it is difficult. The old saying, we were talking about old sayings, right? One of my
Yes.
mom's, everything happens for a reason.
There you go.
Everything happens for a reason. And the reason, so let's think all the way back to the soul's purpose and the evolution of the soul. Well, it was a contract you and your husband signed
Mhm.
that these things would happen. It's all about the soul's evolution through all of the emotions that we experience as human beings to the point where they don't drag us into the dark anymore.
Right.
That's the transcendence to the light, right? The soul movement.
Yeah. And
And
we have to get to the blueprint before we run out of time.
the blueprint. So, right. So the blueprint, I think I went through. So the blueprint is our energy field.
Okay.
It's the moment of birth, it's the sky's frequency, vibration. It's the birth chart. And what's amazing is how many people measure themselves against everybody else.
Oh, almost everybody.
Everybody. And we certainly do coming up on the playground.
Yeah.
It was the playground and when I was coming up, and
Yeah.
now it's on the playground of social media or whatever it is. But
Yeah.
everybody, as human beings, we're conditioned to look outside ourselves
Yeah.
and to value our worth based on others and what we see. When truthfully, we must look within. Uh, we're perfect already. We're made in an image, right? The image of the creator. I mean, we're perfect. And so we must look within and understand who we are as unique energy fields, as unique human beings. The birth chart is a picture. And a lot of my clients, they print their birth chart and they frame it because I tell them, look at that thing from time to time and understand the energy that is within it. You are unique. Children, I'd love to work with children and show them their uniqueness to the level that they can understand it. I see so many people lost, young people lost in the world of social media. I mean, to the point of suicide, right? Getting bullied and all
Yeah.
of these things because they haven't been taught how unique they are, how
Yeah.
wonderfully made they are.
Yeah.
They haven't been, they don't understand. The simplest thing for me in my teens was, what's my son's expression? The expression of the sun, the sign it was in when I was born.
Yeah.
Everything in my life evolves around that. I must, when I exude that energy, I feel sane. And so the birth chart really, it's unique. It's unique
How
to
do I
you.
get my birth chart?
Pardon me?
How do I do that? How do I get my birth?
Well, there are many websites
Okay.
that you can pick it up for free.
Okay.
And many, many, many. And I'll send you one so you can put it in your show notes for everybody.
Oh, I love that.
Okay.
Mhm.
If you don't know your time of birth, try to
Mhm.
get it.
I do have it.
That's beautiful. And for you, I'd love for you to send me your details afterwards, and I will generate your birth chart,
Oh, I'd love
okay,
that
with a
too.
certain legend.
Yeah.
And And so yes, generate your birth chart. And also in these software packages, it's all free online, truly is. You can get a real strong understanding for all of it.
Mhm.
Where evolutionary astrology comes in is that's when you work with and either you work with me or you work with someone else, but evolutionary astrology is what you're looking for. This is where you're working with someone who has been trained to read the language of astrology from a spiritual perspective, from a soul evolution perspective. There are certain points in the birth chart that tell the story, and we're trained to point that out. Can you find that online? Absolutely. Can you use ChatGPT to do that? Absolutely. I will tell you though that it's overwhelming.
Yes.
So it's complicated. It kept me from, I was always drawn to astrology, but it took me decades to do the proper training in it,
Yeah.
which I've done and I continue to do. So it took me decades because it's really complicated.
Yeah.
It's one thing to understand the wheel, but it's the sacred geometry of how everything plays in your chart together for
Yeah.
the time of life that you're in. You're in
Exactly.
your 20s, you're in your 30s, your 40s. These are all different times of life.
Yeah.
And the trained evolutionary astrology is going to be able to share that with you. It is evolutionary astrology as much as it is depth psychology. So we're talking about Jungian psychology here and the archetypes, but it's a marrying, the field I work in marries psychology and astrology
Ah,
together.
cool.
Yes, it's all about understanding the soul psyche
Yeah.
and how it's going to seek to work through this lifetime, how it's going to seek to evolve through this lifetime. So I really recommend everybody at least pull your birth chart, look at some of the things that are out online, understand that enough. If you feel that you're curious for more, then find an evolutionary astrologer and keep digging. And one other thing, Mimi, is after I work with the clients and we do their initial natal chart, soul story,
Mm-hmm.
clients come back every year. And they come back every year, just like you go to an annual doctor's appointment,
Mm-hmm.
because the sky is always changing. So
Yeah.
you're born with a birth chart that never changes. It is you.
Wow.
And the position of the planets at birth
Mm-hmm.
form geometric angles to each other, which help us tell the story. When you go through life, the planets in our solar system are always moving. The sun moves, the moon
Yes.
moves every 29 and a half days. These things are always happening, and they are influencing aspects. They're influencing the geometry of your birth chart at all times.
Hmm.
What is amazing to me, absolutely astonishing to me, is I can see the soul's purpose and the soul's karma. And then I can see the trajectory of the outer planets, the planets that move very slow, very, very slow. Pluto, 256 years to go around, very slow. And it's like, God creator set up quite a story for everybody's lifetime because that planet will come around and interact with a certain configuration in your birth chart and force the soul evolutionary lesson, if you've been ignoring it. If you continue to ignore it, it will come hard, all
Mm.
right, with difficult life situations. If you understand what it is, work with it, it'll come easier.
Yeah.
And then also there's always positive influences that are coming in. These are times of opportunity.
Yeah.
You might be going through a difficult time right now, and I could say to a client, oh, but Jupiter, planet of Santa Claus, one way to look at it, right? It's going to come around to where it was when it was born in about 2 years' time for you. This is a new cycle of opportunity for you.
Yeah.
We want to get ready for that. And so you become not only empowered in understanding who you are, but you become empowered in your life journey, and you're able to understand why you can't do the thing you want to do right now. I'm just not feeling it. I can't write that book. I can't
Yeah.
do this thing. I can't do that. The energies are setting you up right now.
Yeah.
The time is coming.
I
You
believe every
see,
word that you're saying because
it's
I've
it's
heard similar
beautiful.
things. And
Thanks. I got off on a tangent, but I'm
no, no,
quite
no,
passionate about
not
it.
a tangent, not a tangent to me. What I would like to do is let you do my birth chart, and then after it's done, maybe we could share it with my
Absolutely.
audience because I have no problem with that. I'm an open book.
I would love to do that with you. Love
And
to do that. So
there's certain guests I have that I keep looking at my timer. And then there's some that I look at the timer because I know I'm going long.
we can't do that to our audience. I don't know
So
where we are. Oh, I think we're getting there.
we need to have
Yeah,
another show. That's where we are.
I'd love to do that.
I'm going to send you what you asked me to send you. You send me some information for the show notes.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
one of my things is I'm very quick, and I've been on shows where they said, "Oh, probably in 3 months we'll put it on." No, you'll see this week.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
And
I'd
I
love to, I'd love to share the story just by example, if we could, of a client
okay,
that I worked with that just had an extraordinary situation in her chart. It won't take very long.
go ahead.
So this a woman in her 50s had 6 planets in the seventh house. So that's a sector of the house that rules marriage and relationships.
Uh-oh.
Okay. In the zodiac sign of Aquarius, and Aquarius is the independent sign. So her chart showed a deep need for partnership and connection, but also a powerful need for independence and individuality.
Sounds like me.
And, she had been dealing with this throughout her whole life. It's this polarity. But from an evolutionary astrology perspective, it suggests a past life where relationships for her required conformity, losing herself in someone else's life. And
Yes.
now in this lifetime, the soul is learning how to stay fully individual while still engaging deeply with others. Now, this was eye-opening for her. It was so empowering. And again, in her 50s, I think mid to late 50s, just learning this. And once she understood this polarity was part of her design, we could then talk about how to build relationships that allow the closeness while still honoring her uniqueness.
Exactly.
And this is just one example that was hugely empowering for her.
Yeah, these things are. Just I knew I was a caring person. I knew I was always the person people would come to for help, advice, etc.
Mm.
Even when I was drunk, I was this.
Yeah.
to a sober person in the room to them.
It's going to be interesting to see your chart. Yes.
Yeah, I'm
And the
excited.
story will be there.
I can't wait. Well, I hope, listen, you guys, if you did not enjoy this episode, don't come back. Because no, I'm serious. This is the type of show that I have. And I will have this on YouTube also so you can see our beautiful faces.
Thank you
And
so much.
it'll be on the podcast and the show notes and any information. Plus, y'all have my email and my phone number. And if you have questions, you can call me. So, Jeannie, thank you. This was
Thank
very,
you, Mimi.
very exciting for me. And you're coming back.
Awesome. I
All
look
right.
forward to it. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Yeah, look to the stars.